The Tribunal of Mercy. The chamber of the Galactic Council was built to inspire awe. Its ceilings arched higher than any cathedral of old Earth, crafted from pale crystalline stone that shimmered in alien light. Rows of delegates, scaled, feathered, furred, and chitinous, sat in tiers like judges in some vast theater. Their eyes, multifaceted and narrow, looked down with the smug patience of victors. This was no mere assembly. It was a sentencing. Humanity, the newcomers, had refused the guidance of the Council. Instead of bending the knee when fleets of the supposedly enlightened species appeared above Earth, the humans had fought back. They bled, yes, but they bled with teeth bared, dragging whole fleets into ruin with them. Now the Council had summoned humanity to account for its crimes of aggression. The irony was thick enough to taste. Chancellor Awakithel of the Vothians stood at the center, his body a tower of silvered scales, his crest shimmering with authority. His voice carried through the hall. Let it be recorded. Humanity, a primitive race of a death world, is called to stand before this council for crimes against peace. Their savagery cannot be tolerated in the galaxy. It is our duty to pass judgment. A ripple of amusement spread through the chamber. Feathered Melari delegates trilled laughter like flutes. The insectoid Thrix clicked their mandibles in approval. The council had passed judgment on a dozen worlds before. None had resisted so fiercely, and none had survived defiance. They expected the same of humanity. One of the lesser envoys, a thin amphibian creature with skin like oil, leaned to his neighbor. The humans will beg, you'll see. They cannot endure isolation. They will fall to their knees, plead for mercy. His neighbor gave a dismissive snort. They are Deathworlders, true, but even Deathworlds breed weakness. In the end, all primitives submit. Yet in the corner, an elder of the Ziri race tilted his head, his eyes glowing faintly. You underestimate them. I have studied their world. Every tree poisoned, every beast a predator, every season a war. They did not evolve to kneel. The remark was ignored. The great chamber doors opened with a groan of metal. Every eye turned. A lone human entered. He walked slowly, shoulders straight, clad not in military armor but in a dark uniform marked with Earth's sigil. His face bore scars, one running from his brow to his cheek, another curling across his jaw. His hair was streaked with silver, though he was not old. His eyes, dark and steady, did not flicker under the weight of 100 alien stays. He did not bow. He walked to the center, boots striking against the polished floor, and lifted his chin to meet Chancellor Awakithel's gaze. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Where is his retinue? Why only one? Is this defiance? The Chancellor bayed sharp teeth in a smile. Representative of Earth, you stand accused of barbarism and violence against the peace of the galaxy. Have you come to beg forgiveness? To request leniency? The human said nothing. His silence stretched, heavy as a storm on the horizon. Finally, he spoke, his voice steady, carrying farther than expected. You asked for humanity to appear before your council. His eyes swept the tears. Here I am. The council waited for the plea that never came. He continued. You accused us of aggression. You call us savages, primitives. You believe we will kneel. His scarred mouth tightened, not in anger but in grim amusement. You believe wrong. Outside the chamber, through the transparent dome above, something vast shifted in the dark. The councillors glanced upward. Where there had been only distant starlight, new shapes now loomed. Wedges of black steel, prow lights burning like the eyes of predators. A fleet. Human warships, dozens strong, sliding into orbit like wolves circling prey. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some delegates rose in panic. Others hissed. It is impossible. They would not dare. The human did not look up. He stood calm, hands clasped behind his back. We did not come to beg. His voice was quiet, yet it struck like iron. We came so you would understand what it means to summon Deathworlders. The chamber fell into silence. The Chancellor's smile faltered, just for a moment. Far above, one of the human ships tilted, its silhouette blotting out a star. A shadow passed across the council's chamber like the sweep of a predator's wing. They had expected mercy. Instead, humanity had arrived. Deathworld logic. The chamber lights flickered. For a heartbeat, the crystalline walls of the council hall dimmed as power rerouted to emergency systems. Delegates shifted uneasily in their seats. The shadow of the human fleet still lingered above, blackening the stars. The human envoy did not flinch. His voice, calm and measured, cut through the unease. You call us savages. But tell me, what do you know of savagery? He raised his scarred hand and curled his fingers into a fist. You, who grew fat on temperate worlds where fruit dropped from branches into waiting hands. You, who built your civilizations under gentle suns, where the air was soft and the water tame. You do not know hunger. You do not know fear. You do not know a world that wakes each morning conspiring to kill you. A murmur rolled across the tiers. Chancellor HFY narrowed his slit-pupiled eyes. The death world you call Earth is irrelevant. The galaxy has moved beyond such primal struggles. The human's gaze locked on him, steady and unyielding. Irrelevant. He let out a short, humorless laugh. On Earth, every step is a risk. There are fish in our seas with teeth that tear flesh like paper. There are insects whose venom liquefies the body from within. Our storms flatten cities. Our quakes split continents. Even our air carries plagues that return year after year to test us. And still we endure. One of the feathered Melori delegates scoffed. Endurance does not excuse brutality. You fight because you know nothing else. The envoy turned to her, his expression carved from stone. No, we fight because survival is never guaranteed. On your worlds, life is gifted. On ours, it is earned. The hall grew quiet. The truth in his words sank like a blade. He paced slowly, boots echoing across the floor. Your fleets thought Earth would crumble at the first show of force. Instead, we fought. We bled. But where your soldiers broke, ours held. Do you know why? Because war is not alien to us. It is the air we breathe. It is written into the marrow of our bones. A young amphibian delegate croaked nervously, his skin shimmering. Then perhaps it is proof you cannot be trusted among the stars. A species bred for violence cannot be allowed free rein. The human stopped walking. His voice dropped to a low, dangerous calm. And yet you gave violence to us first. You invaded our skies. You burned our soil. And when we defended ourselves, you called us guilty. His dark eyes swept the chamber. You speak of trust, but it was your council that betrayed peace, not Earth. Several alien voices rose at once, some defensive, others fearful. The chamber dissolved into a cacophony of clicks, growls, and trills. Order! HFY's crest flared as he slammed his claw against the dais. The uproar quieted, though tensions still buzzed like a hive. He sneered down at the envoy. And what, human, do you intend? To challenge the authority of the council? To stand against the will of 100 worlds? The envoy tilted his head, as if considering. Then he answered with words that chilled even the fiercest voices into silence. We intend to survive. The statement was not shouted, nor was it delivered with threat. It was spoken simply, a truth as immutable as gravity. And somehow, that made it all the more terrifying. Through the dome above, one of the human ships adjusted position. Its engines flared briefly, casting the chamber in harsh light. Shadows of alien delegates stretched long across the walls, like prey caught in the gaze of predators. The envoy continued, his tone steady. Sentence us if you wish. Call us barbarians, strip us of trade, blockade our worlds. We will endure. We always endure. Because Earth has taught us a lesson no council decree can erase. And what lesson is that? Hissed HFY. The envoy's eyes hardened. That mercy is not given. It is chosen. And you, his gaze swept across the tiers of assembled species. You chose conquest. Do not expect us to choose mercy in return. The silence that followed was suffocating. No one laughed now. No one whispered about begging or submission. For the first time, the council looked at the lone human not as a defendant, but as a judge. The chamber's lights flickered again, and this time, no one mistook it for a glitch. When mercy was denied, the Galactic Council chamber trembled. Dust sifted down from the vaulted ceiling as a distant thunder rolled through the station. Delegates stirred in panic, their voices rising into a discordant storm. "The humans are firing," one shrieked, mandibles clattering. "No, they would not dare," another cried, even as alarms howled across the comm feeds. The human envoy stood motionless at the center of the chamber. His expression had not changed since his arrival. Calm, steady, unreadable. His hands remained clasped behind his back, though above them, the human fleet moved like predators striking from the dark. Through the crystalline dome, light blazed. A human cruiser unleashed a kinetic barrage. No energy beams, no exotic weapons, just metal slugs accelerated to unimaginable speed. They punched through the shields of the Council's defensive fleet as if the berries were paper, scattering wreckage into the void. The delegates stared upward, horrified. These were ships designed by civilizations thousands of years old, cut to pieces in seconds. The Chancellor slammed a clawed fist against the dais. "Cease this madness. You dare assault the Council itself." His voice shook with anger, but beneath it, fear quivered. The envoy finally raised his gaze. "We dare," he said simply. Another tremor rocked the station. A second wave of human ships had deployed drones, swarms of needle-like craft that darted between lumbering alien vessels, striking engines and weapons with surgical precision. No wasted fire, no mercy. The chamber dissolved into chaos. Some delegates shouted for immediate surrender. Others demanded counterattack orders be given. Yet the truth was plain to all. The Council's fleets were crumbling, not because of numbers, but because humanity fought differently. Where alien tactics relied on tradition and show of force, the humans wielded adaptability, improvisation, and relentless aggression. The envoy's voice cut through the panic. "We came here in good faith once, to parley. You answered with war. We offered coexistence. You answered with subjugation. Now you understand. Earth does not kneel." A Malari delegate, her feathers trembling, cried out, "Then what do you want from us? Is it conquest you seek?" The envoy turned to her. "No, not conquest." He let the silence stretch. "We want you to remember." Another barrage lit the dome in white fire. A massive Council battleship split in half, its core flaring like a dying star. Gasps, shrieks, and guttural moans filled the chamber. The galaxy's mighty, the so-called keepers of order, now trembled like prey animals cornered by a hunter. RYK Thel's crest flattened in rage. "You will destroy everything. Do you think this will make you safe? You make enemies of us all." The human stepped closer to the dais, voice low but carrying with iron clarity. "You made yourselves our enemies when you chose arrogance over peace. You expected us to beg for your mercy. Instead, we show you the price of denying it." The Chancellor bared his teeth but took a step back. Outside, the battle was already over. The human fleet had not annihilated every ship. They had crippled engines, disabled weapons, shattered command relays. What remained of the Council's armada drifted, powerless, a graveyard of twisted metal and dying fire. The envoy spoke again, each word heavy as a sentence. "We do not slaughter needlessly. We do not burn worlds to ash. But neither do we forgive those who mistake restraint for weakness." One of the insectoid Thrix, usually defiant, clicked his mandibles in submission. "Then what are your terms, Deathworlder?" The envoy's eyes swept across the room. "No terms. No treaties. No oaths. You will leave Earth in peace. You will not send fleets to our skies again. That is all. But if we refuse," croaked the amphibian delegate, his voice trembling. The envoy turned toward him. His expression did not change, but the silence that followed was colder than any threat. Above, the black silhouettes of the human warships hung like executioner's blades. "Finally," he said, "then we finish what we began." The chamber fell still. No one spoke. No one dared. At last, the Chancellor lowered his crest. His voice was bitter, but his words were surrender. "The Council acknowledges humanity's position. The tribunal is ended." The envoy gave a single nod. He did not smile. He simply turned, boots echoing against the polished floor as he walked back toward the great chamber doors. Behind him, the council sat in silence, their fleets broken, their authority shattered. They had summoned humanity to beg for mercy. Instead, they had been forced to taste their own. And outside the dome, the Deathworlders waited. The Deathworlders' legacy. The Galactic Council chamber, once a place of smug certainty, lay in uneasy silence. Shattered pride hung in the air heavier than the dust drifting from the ceiling. Hours had passed since the human envoy's departure, but none of the delegates spoke above a whisper. The council, once the unchallenged voice of 100 species, had been humbled in a single day. And across the stars, the message spread. The Battle of the Tribunal, they called it. Whispers raced through trading hubs and border outposts, through pirate dens and diplomatic halls alike. News feeds replayed shaky footage of council warships splitting apart under brutal human fire. The words carried with them a new name for Earth's people, Deathworlders, no longer said with contempt. Now, it carried dread. On a neutral station orbiting a red dwarf, merchants huddled. If the Deathworlders can break the council fleet, who can stop them? One asked, trembling. No one, answered another. Pray they want nothing more than survival. On a council colony world, parents hushed their young with stories turned inside out. Where once humans were villains, they became warnings. Never provoke a Deathworlder, or you will not see dawn. And on Earth itself, for the first time in history, the sky was clear of alien invaders. Humanity's fleet hung in orbit not as conquerors but as guardians. The people looked up and knew they had stayed into the maw of the galaxy and had not been devoured. In the ruins of the Council's pride, Chancellor R.Y. Kithel convened a private gathering. His crest sagged with defeat, yet bitterness still edged his voice. We must recover, he hissed. We must rebuild our fleets. Humanity cannot be allowed to dictate the order of the stars. But the insectoid Thrix delegate shook his head, mandibles clacking. No, you saw as I did. They showed restraint. They could have destroyed us utterly. The Maylari feathered her wings nervously. If they wished to rule, they would have taken the chamber, the station, and every world beyond. They did not. Perhaps they mean what they said. R.Y.K. Thel's eyes blazed. You would let savages shame us. They are not savages, the Ziari elder said softly, his voice carrying a weight that silenced the room. They are survivors, and survivors are not easily broken. The council chamber, once a theater for arrogance, had become a tomb of old certainties. None admitted it aloud, but each knew the balance of power had shifted. Humanity had not seized the throne, but they had made it dangerous for anyone else to sit there. On 8th, the envoy stood atop a windswept cliff overlooking the Atlantic, the roar of waves below. He had returned not as a conqueror, but as a messenger who carried the weight of a galaxy's fate. Behind him, soldiers stood watch, their uniforms plain, their weapons sheathed. Humanity did not celebrate with parades or banners. Their victory was quieter, heavier, like the hush after a storm that had nearly torn the world apart. Reporters asked him, "What now? Will Earth lead the galaxy?" He shook his head. "We lead no one. We are not emperors. We are not overlords. We are Deathworlders, and that means one thing. We endure. If others wish to coexist, they will be welcomed. If they come with chains, they will be broken." The word spread across Earth and beyond. Not boastful, not arrogant, simply a statement of fact. Weeks later, a freighter from a minor species approached Earth orbit, its captain trembling as she hailed. Instead of weapons, she found open channels, guidance, and safe docking. Her people had fled council oppression, and humanity received them. Not with conquest, but with shelter. Rumors grew. Perhaps the Deathworlders were not monsters, but guardians forged in fire. Not saints, not tyrants, something new. In the great halls of alien academies, philosophers began to debate. What did it mean to live alongside a species that had clawed its way up from a world designed to kill it? What did it mean when weakness itself was redefined? Some argued that humanity was too dangerous, a threat to the stars. Others whispered that maybe, just maybe, The galaxy needed them. At night, aboard the orbiting fleet, the envoy stood alone at a viewport. Earth spun below, storm clouds swirling over continents, oceans crashing against coasts. A beautiful, brutal cradle. His reflection stayed back at him in the glass, scarred, tired, unbowed. He thought of the Council's laughter, of their expectation of mercy, and he thought of the silence when they realized none would be given. Let them remember, he murmured. For the galaxy had learned a lesson that day. Mercy was not guaranteed. Power did not always belong to the ancient or the many. Sometimes, it belonged to those who had lived too long in the shadow of extinction to ever bow again. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the stars would never forget it.